and welcome back. Joining us via Zoom this morning is the Director General of the Statistical Institute of Belize, Diana Castillo-Trejo. Good morning, Diana.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
We're also joined by Annia Mejia. I hope I'm getting it correct. Annia Mejia. She is Statistician 2 for Census Surveys and Administrative Statistics at the SIB. Good morning, Annia.
Good morning.
So, I want us to first of all get an understanding of what a post-enumeration survey is, and of course, why this is important for us as citizens of this country following the previous census exercise.
Okay, well, the post-enumeration survey is an exercise. It's a survey that is done after your census. We've never done one before in Belize, but it is good practice to do one after your census because it allows you to go back and do an assessment of how well or how good your coverage was and the quality of the data that was collected in the census. So it's the first time that we're doing it, and we wanted to just share what it is about and what exactly households can expect if they are included in the sample for this survey. But basically, it's a way to go back and assess how well you did your census. Why it's important? Because the census is our most costly and extensive data collection exercise that is done in any country. A lot of resources are invested in the census, and so you want to know how well those resources have been used, and you want to also look for lessons that you can carry forward into the next census. We're just 7 years away from the next census, and preparations will have to start from that within the next year. And so we want to take the lessons that we get from the post-enumeration survey, from that assessment, and use that to develop an even better census in 2030.
How is the survey carried out?
Okay, I'll ask Ms. Mejia to go through the details, the technical details of what the survey entails.
Okay, so the post-enumeration survey is basically a renumeration of a representative sample of the census. For us, this means 200 enumeration districts or areas have been sampled countrywide, which is about 20% of the population. So the exercise will involve a listing of all buildings within those enumeration districts or areas, followed by completion of the PES questionnaire, the post-enumeration questionnaire, with an eligible member of occupied households that are identified after the listing. The listing itself will involve a geospatial component, which will involve the interviewers taking pictures of the buildings and geospatial markings of the buildings. And this is just for us to ensure that they have visited all the buildings within the enumeration district. The questionnaire itself is simply going to capture information about the household membership and demographic characteristics of each member of the household. After we have collected data from the household SAT data, we match the data from the census. So the census results and the PES results will be matched. And then after we have finished all the matching, if we have any mismatches, then we'll have a reconciliation period 1 week after the data collection has been completed.
All right, so let's go back again. So the idea of this exercise is to be able to determine how effective the actual census was. And so we're looking at, as you've mentioned, 200 districts. Does that mean then that we're canvassing the country all over again in order to be able to carry this out successfully?
Yes, basically, because the PES is independent of the census. So we have to go back into 200 areas countrywide and basically redo the process that we did with the census with the PES.
Okay, forgive me. It sounds a bit redundant. To the average person, it sounds as if though we're going over the same exact thing that we just did last year, for instance. Okay, so is there a difference in the data or the quality of the data that you will be gleaning from this go around?
No, it's just to make sure that we have households matching from the census and the PES. So to make sure that the information that was collected for all the households that was collected in the census matched the PES. So we're just making sure that the information, their coverage of the census was accurate using the PES.
So it's kind of like checking to make sure that everything is accurate.
Yes, basically the coverage of the census to make sure that that was accurate.
So this will also be, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to also add to that. It's just for clarity. We're not administering the entire census questionnaire. The census questionnaire is very long.
Yeah.
All we're doing is doing a household listing where we want to match the number of household members and their basic demographics, so like their age and sex and things like that. And that's how we'll establish matches between the households that are included in the PES and households from the census. So if a household is included in the sample, it's not to expect that we will be there for an hour or more administering this questionnaire. We will just read over the listing. This is where we'll establish coverage to make sure that every single building was accounted for and every household was visited. And then we will administer the short questionnaire. It is very short. It's just the household listing section. Again, we will just use the household member demographics to establish a match or a lack of a match. So while yes, there is some redundancy, we're redoing the listing because, as Annia said, we have to run an independent exercise from the census to be able to assess it well. You can also not expect that an interviewer will be at your household for any very long time. It's really just a short questionnaire that they will be administering.
How robust is this activity?
The activity is methodologically quite sound. As I said, it's best practice, and many countries around the world do a PES. We're one of the first countries in our CARICOM region who will be doing a PES because it's not something that we have had the resources or the manpower to do before. However, it is best practices, and we are being supported in this with a consultant that was obtained through the United Nations Population Fund. He's an expert in conducting post-enumeration surveys. He's done them all over the world, and he's guiding us through the process and training our staff from start to finish throughout the process.
So when does the PES begin, and where can we expect SIB to begin as it relates as part of the country?
So the post-enumeration survey will be done from July 31st, so next week, Monday, to August 25th. That's 4 weeks. And like I said, it's countrywide, so they will be starting in areas all over the country, in Belize and Corozal, all over.
Okay.
This is interesting. This will be carried out by volunteers once again, or what are we looking forward to in terms of the personnel on the ground?
It will be hired interviewers and field supervisors in the field. The amount of interviewers will be about 120 interviewers who will be doing the listing. In rural areas, they will also be accompanied by a driver to assist them in traversing the east.
So I know that this will be a much shorter version of the original survey process that took place, but give us an idea of some of the questions that these members can expect when you guys come to them.
So the questions will simply be like your relationship to the head of the household, sex, age, religion, marital status, and that's about it. There's a couple questions more, but that's the basic idea of just collecting demographic information about the household members.
And then the information that is gathered will use to present how successful the survey was before.
Yes, basically just to match the households that were enumerated in the census with the PES, so that we have an idea of how well the coverage and quality of the data was collected in the census.
I have a question for Ms. Trejo. So we've done a couple press conferences with SIB where, in a sense, we've been primed ahead of the actual release of the census report. Where are we with that, and are we perhaps at the conclusion stage where we're tightening up the nuts and bolts before this document is released?
Yes, we are in the last few weeks of data processing with the census. So when we do a labor force survey, it takes us about 2 months from the time we collect the data to process the data and to present the results, and that's just 3,000 households. We're processing data for over 100,000 households, and so that takes a little time, but we are in the last few weeks of it. So um, we only have to do some cleaning to the different sections now within the census questionnaire, and by mid-October, I believe it's October 11th is our release date, we will be publishing our key findings, we will be publishing our preliminary counts, and we will be updating our mid-year population estimates as well.
Now, Diana, every time you guys come on the show, we make it a point to ask the importance of these surveys of the census, just to remind our viewers and the public of Belize of why it's important for them to take part in this process. So I'll throw it over to you again to do the same, definitely to reiterate the importance of the survey, to reiterate the importance of the census, and why Belizeans should take part in it.
Okay, so of all the data collection exercises that we do, the census is arguably the most important one. That's the one where we get the most information for. That's the one where we visit every single household, or we get information for every single household in the country, every single individual. And that's used for a span of up to 10 years for government to plan its programs, to plan infrastructure development, to allocate resources, to interventions to improve the lives of the population. All that is based on data that comes out of the census. It's not just government, there are other partners, there are other agencies who also use this information. And this information is used, as I said, for up to 10 years till the next census, to address issues that need improving within the population, to develop programs and policies that are intended to improve the lives of people and to develop the country. So that's the importance of the census. And because the census is so important, it's really important also that we get the census as right as we possibly can. And this is where this survey comes in. We've never had the opportunity to do a PES before. However, we recognize that it is very important to look back and assess in anything, any exercise that we do, any data collection exercise. And because this one is so important, it is equally important that we look back, we assess, we determine where we can improve for the next one. We look at what are the lessons that we're going to learn going into 2030. And, with the census, like with all other data collection activities, and the same with this survey, the results that we get are only going to be as good as the data that we get from households. And so because this is so important to impacting people's lives personally, it's also important that people, participate, cooperate, share the information. Just like anything else that we do, the information is held strictly confidential. We don't use any identifying information in our data processing. It is strictly, just the information, and it is used strictly for statistical purposes.
I want to give you an opportunity as well to perhaps make a clarification on certain concerns and certain issues that have been ventilated in the media by way of an ad. Would you take this opportunity to speak on that?
Yes, thank you. I've become aware that there's an ad that's circulating that uses some footage of our staff in one of our press conferences, and use it in the context of a political ad. And normally, the use of the data, it's kind of, we put the data out and we don't have any control over how anyone uses the data after that. However, I just wanted to address this particular one because it utilizes footage of my staff. And I want to emphasize, and I want to just clarify that the SIB is mandated by our law, by our act that governs the SIB, to do our work, to prepare our statistics and to present our statistics, not just with technical proficiency, but also with objectivity. And so we do our very best to present our statistics in a way that is neutral in every sense possible. We focus just on what the information is saying. We try to provide some context. We try to provide some analysis, so that people can understand what the information means. And so, there at no time would we, and it goes completely against our mandate, at no time would we present any information and try to link that information in one way or the other to any political party or government administration. What we do is simply present the information as is. And sometimes it is considered favorable to one side's agenda and less favorable to the other, and vice versa. But at all times, what we present is just what the information is and how it needs to be analyzed and how it should be understood.
All right. Thank you so much for that clarification, Diana. Well, as we wrap up, I want to use the opportunity for you to once again issue out the dates of when the post-enumeration survey will take place. And just to clarify to reviewers the process, what they can expect, and of course the importance of this process.
Well, the post-enumeration survey then starts on the 31st. That's next Monday. We will be out in the field for a period of 4 weeks. We are enumerating 200 enumeration districts, so we will be in quite a large number of areas across the country. Persons can expect that if you see our teams in your area, that means that enumeration area has been sampled, and so every single household will be visited to do a post-enumeration survey check. The questionnaire isn't long, as I said, and the information that we get will be used strictly to determine how well we have covered all households within the country in the census, and what the quality of the data is that we have collected. So we want to ask persons, if you're visited for the post-enumeration survey, I know that the SIB has been quite active in terms of surveys and presence in the field.
You guys are familiar faces.
Very. So we will just ask households cooperation once more, as they have always given us, in participating in this survey and assisting us in not just assessing our census and knowing how well we did, but also in improving for the next one.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the information. As always, we appreciate you guys coming and sharing the updates, what we can expect from the SIB, and we look forward to future updates as always.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will be joined by Brittany Starr. Who is Brittany Starr? Find out after the break.